Welcome back to the Isn't That Rich podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Ashley McVicker.
And I'm Jill Franks.
And this is the second episode of our series for financial inventory planning. So last week we told you the exact documents you needed to find to kick your financial future off. This episode, we are diving deeper into each of those categories to make sure we know exactly what is happening in our bank accounts, investment accounts, our insurance policies, and so much more.
Financial inventory is the best way to start getting organized and involved in your finances, but most importantly, it's how you determine your net worth. And this is key because if you don't know what you're worth, you won't know where you're starting from.
Yeah. And did you know you have a net worth, Jill?
I didn't.
I didn't either. I thought it was only for the rich and famous.
That's right. And if you feel like you don't have a ton of assets, then you feel like you might not have a net worth. But so let's just talk about what net worth is. So your net worth is the sum of all of your assets minus the sum of all of your liabilities. So all your debt that you owe.
And so an asset is what, Jill? Like your house, the value of your home, your car, your bank accounts.
Exactly.
Everything you own.
Everything you own. Jewelry. I mean, all of your assets. That is your net worth. So the hard thing about finding out what you are worth or what your net worth is just getting it down on paper. Mm-hmm. Because how do you put value to all of these things? And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. And the first part to doing that was you have to just find out where your stuff is and what you own, and we did that last week.
Exactly.
So it's literally writing down all of your assets on paper. This will help you plan for your dreams and your future, and also will make it easier for your loved ones when you pass away, as weird as that sounds, to find your stuff and know where it's at. It's a good thing, and it makes you well aware of your financial situation.
So last week we mentioned this website, everplans.com, and it's an online vault for your digital archive, and you can keep your will, your trust, your insurance policies, so on and so forth, like your social media passwords, all of that good stuff. It's a vault online for you to keep it there. So it's a really safe and secure place to store all that information.
To keep your inventory of your finances. So everplans.com, check it out. All right, guys. So first things first, we have got to make an appointment with ourselves to do this financial inventory planning. So we made, we talk about appointments on here a lot. We made this kind of appointment for ourselves last week to find all of our stuff, whether you were sitting down with your spouse or you're single, you found your stuff. Okay, we know it takes time. This is going to take some time too, right? So It's not something you're going to get done in 10 minutes, right?
No, and I want you to make this really clear, because when we sat down and did it, it probably took me a month to get all this stuff together.
Yeah.
It takes time, but I don't also want people to be discouraged by that, because this is what happens every year, right? We set these New Year's resolutions. We have all these big intentions to get your finances in order. You want to save a certain amount in your bank account. We go 2 months along and then we get frustrated. Like we don't know where everything is, but this is meant to take time. And once you have it set up, you won't have to do it ever again, because you're going to keep it rolling as you move forward.
Mm-hmm. So we've got to take some time to dissect and make decisions about all these documents we're going to go through. Most people can't answer these questions that we're about to read through, but they're seriously crucial to your financial health. And you should know these things, or at least know where to go to find these answers about your finances. So once it's completed, you'll have an easy way to access this information for when you need to update it. And you should update it, right?
Yeah, so this is something you want to do quarterly, biannually, at least once a year. So we're starting off new year. It's a perfect time to start.
I feel like I want to go through my financial inventory planner like once a month, honestly, just because I'll make a decision about money, or maybe I'll get a new idea, or I want to save a different way. And so it's just make that appointment with yourself to sit down and go through and update your stuff, because it's seriously so important.
Yeah, Ashley and I are really big advocates for actually scheduling it in the calendar and block schedule, like literally let no one else have access to you during this time where you're working on this, because it is that important. Your future depends on it. So sit down, make an appointment with yourself, do it quarterly.
So Jill, last week we found all of our stuff, right?
That's right.
And what are we going to do? Like, we've got all these file folders, right? And they've got all their separate files in them, and we went through those. So, okay, I have all this information. I'm looking at it. What do you want me to do? What are some questions I can ask?
So we want to find out what's going on with your family's money. Like what's going on with your money? What's going on with your family's money? And we have a few questions that we want to ask you just to like consider to know where you stand. Like what is your financial knowledge of your finances? Like what knowledge do you have?
And I think a lot of these questions will kind of, I don't want to say catch you off guard, but maybe they'll catch you off guard and think, I didn't even think to look through my insurance policy and shop and save money that way. Or do I know the size of my mortgage? So we're going to dive deep into all of these questions. It's really just a financial knowledge quiz.
It is. So to kick us off, I want you to answer true or false to the following questions. The first question is, I know the current value of my home, including the size of the mortgage and the amount of equity I've built in my home.
Can you answer that, Jill?
So I wasn't able to prior to this year, but this year I've been doing a lot of work on my finances and I can answer that question confidently, which
and
is
doesn't
exciting.
That feel good?
It feels very good. I know exactly how much I owe on our house, or we owe on our home. I know what interest rate we're getting on our mortgage. I know how much how much equity we've built up in our house.
Which is super important because if you go to sell your house, you need to know how much equity you put in your home.
Right. So knowing the current value of my home, the benefits to this, just like Ashley said, knowing how much your home is worth. It's also, I want to talk about the equity part of it too.
Okay.
Because there are ways that you can utilize the equity built up in your home to finance a construction project for your home. Maybe you need to do some renovations. You could take out a HELOC and or any other kind of financing on your home and to make those improvements. So you can use the equity in your home as a tool to make other financial decisions.
Yeah, but if you don't know that and you don't sit down here and ask yourself this question and find out all those answers, you may not be able to make those decisions. So sit down, find out the current value of your house. Maybe you need to get with an appraiser.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Get with your mortgage officer. Use your people to help you. They're there to help you.
And talking about this too, if you are getting ready to sell, how great would it be to have all of the pre-work done, finding out what the value of your house is, like what it would appraise for in today's real estate market, right? So doing all this work ahead of time will save you so much when it comes to selling your home.
Totally. So the next question you're going to answer true or false to is, I know the length of my mortgage payment schedule and how much extra it would cost each month to pay down the mortgage in half the time. I also know the interest rate we are paying on the mortgage and if it is competitive in today's market.
So I feel like that's a
that's loaded
question. Okay, so let's break it down. So I know the length of my mortgage.
All right, simply, what does that mean? Well, how long are you going to be paying your home off?
Exactly.
Is it 30 years? Is it 15 years? Do you have 5 more years left on it?
Right.
And what does that look like for you to pay it off in a shorter amount of time, to put money towards the principal of your loan so you're paying less money?
Exactly. So it talks about in this question, how much extra would it cost each month to pay down the mortgage in half the time? Why is that a benefit, Ashley?
Why is that a benefit? Because you're saving so much money on interest. Oh my gosh.
That's
you're
right.
getting yourself out of debt early.
Exactly. And there's so many tools out there to find the answer to this. It's so simple. Like I went yesterday just researching this question. I was like, okay, I don't know. I want to see what it would cost me if I want to get done with my loan. And we have 10 years left on our loan. So I want to pay this off in 5 years and be debt free with our mortgage, right? It was so easy to find a calculator. I actually went onto the AARP website and there is a payoff calculator right on there. And
just does it for you. So simple.
Yeah, you can put your rate, how many months you have left, how many months you want to pay it off in, push a button. It'll tell you exactly what your payment today needs to be to pay it off in 5 years.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I think that refinancing is like a really big one too for this question because, you need to, do I know the interest rate that we're paying for my mortgage and if it's competitive in today's market. So we talked about this on the last episode, but you should refinance, try to refinance, right, if the interest rates are 1% lower than what your current rate is.
Yeah, so this was a really cool answer that we got from one of our mortgage officers. We did a webinar a while back with John Streeter, and he said, the best advice to give you about refinancing your home is if the rates are 1%, at least 1% lower than what you're currently paying on your loan, consider refinancing.
Yeah, so, and maybe it's not the best time for you to refinance because there are fees involved, but that is something that you
should keep an eye on.
Keep an eye on, absolutely.
And another thing, if you are choosing to, we first talked about paying back your loan at half the time. If you are choosing to pay your loan back, you need to talk to your bank about how you want that payment to be handled. So some banks out there, just giving you a warning that if you don't tell them where you want that payment to go, they will apply it to the interest as well as the principal. When you're prepaying this amount of money, you want it to go directly to the principal of your loan rather than towards the interest. So make sure that you call the bank, tell them exactly where you want that extra amount of money to go to.
Always put it on the principal.
Okay, so true or false, I know how much life insurance I carry. Or your spouse. If you have a spouse, you want to know how much life insurance they carry. I know how much cash value there is in the policy, and I know the rate of return my cash value is earning.
Wow. So insurance, life insurance is a big one. And I think it's crazy because whole life insurance or permanent insurance can carry a cash value, meaning you build equity in it essentially, I kind of look at it like a little house.
Yeah,
right.
It can be an investment tool.
Kind of an investment tool. And then term life insurance is typically short, cheap, so cheaper premiums, and you're not building a cash value into it. So it's not that either one of these is right or wrong for you. You need to look at your situation, but that's so important. Like, do you know how much life insurance you carry and what the cash value is of it? Because
or do you know which one you're getting? Are you paying for a term policy or you're paying for a permanent policy, right? So if you're thinking you're using this payment as a investment strategy and you're
in term, oh my gosh.
Right. So just knowing the difference is a huge deal. And the big part of this question is how much cash do I have in that? So just like we talked about last week, you want to know what your insurance policies carry, like what you've built up in that. This is another investment tool if you're doing the permanent policy. So you want to know how much cash value is there.
Yeah. And holy smokes, like we just said, I would be so mad if I thought I was like paying into a whole life insurance policy, but it was actually term life. And then I thought I was going to use this money for something.
Yeah. And also when you're looking at permanent insurance, your payments vary throughout your lifetime, right? So as you get closer to time of retirement, your payments increase drastically. So you want to know that payment schedule and be sure you're clear on that, because all of a sudden you could be paying quite a bit more into this life insurance policy later in life than you were when you start out. So you just want to be very mindful and keep track of how much is your cash value, what is your payment schedule, all of that.
All that good stuff. So insurance, definitely check that out. All right, the next one, true or false? I know the details, including amount of coverage, cost, monthly or yearly payment of all other insurance policies carried by myself or my spouse, if applicable. This includes health, disability, term life, and so on. So really, this is just check out all of your insurance. Shop around for your insurance. Like every year, car insurance, maybe I can get a cheaper rate.
Definitely shop around for insurance. That's something people forget to do. And it's one of the easiest way to save money is shop around for insurance.
The commercials are not lying.
No, you can do that. You can get quotes from various carriers and just shop around. Just do yourself the favor and check out what rate you're getting, what coverage you're getting, and shop around. And
make sure that you're in your right insurance. So like maybe you want disability insurance, and we can talk about that a little later.
But you want to make sure you have the right coverage for your family.
Yes.
So the next question, true or false? I have reviewed my life insurance policy in the past 12 to 24 months to see if the price I am paying for it is still competitive in today's marketplace.
So we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but it is its own separate question. So yeah, is your payment competitive in today's marketplace? Because they change, like you said, Jill.
Absolutely. Okay, next question.
All right. So true or false, if I own my own home, I know what kind of homeowner's coverage I have and what the deductibles are. If I rent, I know the amount of renter's insurance I have and what its deductibles are. In either case, in the event of a fire or other catastrophic loss, I know whether my insurance will reimburse me for the actual cash value of my property or the cost of replacing it at today's current values. And wow, can you imagine if your homeowner's insurance or your renter's insurance was not up to today's standards and your home burnt down?
Right.
I mean, Jill, can you even build back a house for what you built it at, let's say, 5 years ago?
Right. So this,
right? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, I think so. So let's break it down a little bit. So you built this beautiful home and you took out this homeowner's insurance policy. Back then, and home value was what? Way lower than it is today. Even if it was 5 years ago than today, right? So that's when you took out your homeowner's policy. Well, now so much the marketplace has changed. Cost of goods have changed. Like if you were to rebuild today and your insurance was valuing your home 5 years ago, well, they're not going to give you
the same value as it is today.
Exactly. So you want to make sure
that that's up to date.
Everything's up to date. Exactly.
Oh
so gosh. Good.
So good. That's such a good one.
So true.
Hot tip.
I know. True or false? I have attempted to protect my family's nest egg from lawsuits by carrying an umbrella policy that includes liability coverage. So when you think about an umbrella policy, it is essentially covering the injury to other people on your property. So say you have your friends over and you're grilling out on your patio and your friend clumsily walks up the stairs and she falls off your deck.
My gosh.
I'm sorry, but it is like, so do you have a policy in place that will pay for her medical, or do you have a policy in place to cover that injury? That's essentially an umbrella policy. So it's a really good thing. A lot of people do VRBOs and whatnot. You want to make sure that you have the right insurance to cover other people being on your property. An umbrella policy is a way for homeowners to do that.
Yeah. And I remember in one of our mastermind groups, we had a really great insurance agent in there, and she was like, that is probably one of the most important things you can do for your family is get an umbrella policy. And I'm not kidding.
Yeah. There was a lot of examples she used. I remember the four-wheeling one. Somebody was four-wheeling on their property and they did not know it and got caught in a fence. Remember that? And like, that is so scary. And yeah, so there just that liability of having other people be on your property, even if you don't give them permission, you want to be able to be covered for that.
Great. So, all right, next question, true or false? I either prepared my own tax return this year or reviewed my tax situation with the person who prepared my return. So, do you have your accountant?
Okay, so we always talk about it. You have your team in place, right? An accountant needs to be a team member for you. So we have your lawyer, you have whatever else.
Your banker.
Yeah, your banker, your lawyer, your doctor. An accountant needs to be on your team. So make sure you review your tax situation.
We all know, honey, taxes are they're complicated. They're complicated. No one understands them. Am I an independent or a dependent? I always say that. Do you have somebody that you prepared your taxes with, and are they correct?
Next question is, I know the location and amounts of all of my or my family's investments, including, there's a lot here, cash in savings or money market accounts, CDs or savings bonds, stocks and bonds, mutual funds, 529 college savings plans, real estate investments, where the deeds are, the mortgage, the rental agreements, all that good stuff. Your collectibles, so your jewelry, cars, whatever you collect, you know the value of them and where they are located. And you also know the annualized return generated by each of these investments. So that's a lot to unpack, but there are a lot of pieces to your investments, and you want to be able to give each investment a value, right? So you want to know what the return is on all these investments.
Yeah, you want to know how they're performing, because if they're not doing well and they're not doing what they should do, especially, depending where you are in your life, like if you're getting ready to retire or make some big purchases, like you want to know how these things are performing.
Exactly. And, we covered a lot in our last episode about finding these. Once you have them in your file folder, you're set. But just doing that back work initially to find that out is really, really important.
Mm-hmm. All right. True or false? If I or my family owns a business, I know the current valuation of the business, including how much debt it currently carries and the value of its liquid assets. So Jill, I feel like you can speak to this a little bit more because you are a business owner and you kicked off the Small Business Success Series last year with a business valuation professional.
Yeah, so we talk.
What does that mean to like valuation of your business? What does that mean?
Exactly. So we do appraisals on our home to find the value of our home, what it's worth if you were to sell it today. Well, there are business appraisers out there who do the same thing. So they come into your business, they take a look at all the assets. They can tell you if you were to sell today, what your business is worth. So there's lots of different types of businesses out there, and some are online businesses only. So there's not a lot of tangible assets. But there's businesses that are retailers that own lots of equipment and they own their property, right? So there are business evaluators or appraisers out there that can give your business a value. And you always want to keep in touch maybe every 5 years to do a business appraisal. So if you were needing to sell, you could do so and you'd be all set for that.
Right. And I think about like if you're a family business, and wouldn't that be great for your kids to know how much your business was valued at? If they wanted to sell it or if they wanted to keep working on it, get a business valuation and know how much your business is worth.
Also for succession planning too.
Sure.
You need to know that, like, if you're getting ready to retire, if you want to, leave the business behind for your kids, and that way you can do that, and that will be helpful for you to do the business evaluation. Mm-hmm. We did a webinar on this exact thing, and his name was Scott Womack, and we have that whole webinar. We'll link it here in the show notes. If you want to learn more about doing a business valuation, you can give that a little listen too.
Perfect. Alrighty, so next one, true or false? I know the value, location, and performance of all my retirement accounts and those of my spouse, if applicable, including IRAs, SEP IRAs, solo 401ks, and company pension plans. We talked a lot about this with our new coworker about knowing like the value and the location and the performance of your retirement plan. So like, where do I find this information? What website do I get on? How is it doing in today's marketplace? It's a lot of information, but you need to know about it. And we also talked about this in the last episode, but knowing how much you're contributing to your retirement accounts, right, Jill? So are you maxing out your 401k or are you not? Or
when was the last time you upped your contribution like we talked about last episode? Yeah.
True or false? I know if I or my spouse am making the maximum allowable contributions to my retirement plan at work, whether my employer is making matching contributions and what the vesting schedule is. So let's talk about that vesting schedule, what that means.
Yeah, I think we really need to break this question down because there's three parts really.
Sure.
And we talked a little bit about this before. Like you want to, if your employer has a retirement program and you're not making contributions at least up to what they are matching, then you're losing out on money, right?
And matching is great. It's free money. They're literally paying you more.
Well, here's
for you
the
to
thing
retire
about employers who match up to a certain percent. That percentage that they're matching, your investment is 100%. I mean,
you're doubling your money.
It's a 100% return on your investment.
So why wouldn't you at least put in the match? So if your employer sits you down and says, we do a 4% match here, buddy, you better be putting in 4%.
At least 4%.
Because if you put in, let's say you do 3, well, you're not getting a whole nother percent that they were going to give you for free. It's free money. Yeah. Take it.
Yes, absolutely. A lot of companies have a maximum contribution limit. For us, it's 10%. So for me, when I signed up, I was in a position where I just said, yes, I want to invest that entire 10%. I can do that. And so I can't raise mine, but somebody else who doesn't select that 10%, maybe they started with 4%, can gradually over time increase their percentage that they're designating towards that. So
yeah. So do you know if you're maxing out or not? Because you might be leaving a lot of money on the table. And that's really why you should look at this question and say, and ask your spouse if you're married. Are you maxing yours out? Because, honey, I want to live in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
when I'm older.
So another part of this question was what the vesting schedule is. So vesting means that the money is yours. So a lot of places of employment say 100% vested a year after employment, or 5 years down the road, 3 years down the road. So what that means is like, you have this retirement account, you're putting away money into this account and they're matching it. Well, what they're matching isn't necessarily yours until after that period. Mm-hmm. So make sure when you're signing up for your retirement accounts, you know you're asking the question, when is this fully vested?
Perfect.
Awesome. Next question, true or false? I know how much money I and my spouse, if applicable, will be getting from Social Security and what my and my spouse pension benefits will be. So we talked about this last episode a little bit. We want to make sure that we're visiting www.ssa.gov and logging into your account so you know what your benefits will be.
Yeah, what your Social Security benefits will be. And you can look at what year you plan to retire. And we've looked at ours. It's not a lot of money. So,
yeah. But you still want to know where you will stand so you can plan accordingly for retirement.
Perfect. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Final question, true or false? I know whether my and my spouse, if applicable, income is protected should I become disabled because I own disability insurance. In addition, I know what the exact coverage is when the benefits would start and whether the benefits would be taxable. So, wow, that's super loaded. Whew. And I feel like we like to talk about disability insurance because it was something that...
So a couple years ago when Ashley started, we had an Aflac representative come into the bank and he sat down and he met with each one of us and we kind of were just like, this is a joke. Like, why would we're super healthy. We're young.
Or like Farmers offers me health insurance, so why are you here?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that he was there to offer excess insurance. And so he had
disability insurance.
Disability as one of them. And I was like, why? I didn't realize like your health insurance
doesn't cover disability.
Doesn't cover disability. And so here's an interesting statistic. So 1 in 4 of today's 20-year-olds will be disabled before they retire. 1 in 4.
So if you're 20 years old, you're in a room with 20-year-olds, 4 of you, 1 of you will be disabled before.
Statistically.
So that is really high statistics, right?
Yeah.
25% of our population.
And the best way to protect yourself is to get disability insurance, and it's not even that expensive.
So I want to talk about what it is. So should you become disabled, this insurance provides a source of income.
For while you're disabled.
Exactly. So if you're unable to work due to illness or injury, your disability insurance steps in and provides you that paycheck that you'll be missing. And it's so much more common than we think.
It is so, I just read the statistic. It's so much more common and I don't want to believe that stuff. Nobody wants to believe that. And I feel like disability gets kind of like a bad rap around it, but it's unfortunate circumstances that happen to people, and there is insurance out there that can protect you from that and protect your family for if that was to happen to you, because it absolutely could, and it absolutely does. So, do you know if you have disability insurance? Maybe it is something you should consider.
Absolutely, and take those meetings more seriously than Ashley and I did, for sure.
I was like, what are you doing here? I have insurance. You just think everything's covered, but...
Yeah. So we've thrown a lot of questions out to you today, and we know where our stuff is from last week. Now we're asking ourselves these really serious questions to find out where we stand financially and what we know about our finances. It's time to figure out our net worth.
All right, so what's the equation? It's so easy. Net worth is total assets minus total liabilities. So we've gone through this quiz. We know our debts and we know our assets. And we know how much our stuff costs. We know what we're spending, right? So we're just going to do the math.
Absolutely.
And I made that sound kind of simple. I don't think it's that simple. But now that everything is more organized, you can do that equation.
So we, in this episode, in our show notes, have included our financial inventory planner for you to take home, to fill out for yourselves, and really sit down, write down all your information. You've gathered it all. It's here. Now you just need to fill it out. So you need to put everything on paper in one place. And this is what it's going to complete everything we talked about, right? So we had that last hanging folder last week that's titled Financial Inventory Planner. And this worksheet that we're giving you is going to go inside of that folder.
Oh my gosh, and it feels so good.
Feels so good.
You know where all of your stuff is. You know how much your stuff costs. You know what you're paying for. You're just in the light now. You're not in the dark with your finances. And what an exciting thing to do for yourself and your family in the new year.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to the second episode of our financial inventory planning. We hope this opened your eyes to the importance of knowing all there is to know about your finances. Be sure to check out our show notes for all the links mentioned in this episode, as well as that financial inventory planner. You can click on it, download it, print it out, write all over it, and keep it in those file folders that we've been talking about. Also, be sure to follow us on all of our social media and subscribe to our newsletter. We will see you next week.
See you next week.